Okay, so now we are beginning to address the question that we had in the beginning of this Farbrengen. What's the meaning of Moshe Rabbeinu's role in facilitating the redemption? How come we need Moshe Rabbeinu specifically to be involved in this process? So to explain this, we went to the prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu, prayer of Psalm 90 in Tehillim, because that's called the prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu. And what we discovered was that Moshe Rabbeinu has a specific request in sync with his role in the world. His request is that God should rest in the Mishkan. God should rest in the work of the hands of the Jewish people. And how should he rest? It should koinen aleinu. It should be established. It should be permanent. So, in order to accomplish this idea that God's presence should be manifest and permanently revealed in the world, the way, and not just in the tabernacle, but the way it's going to be in the third Beis Hamikdash, in a way that will be in the greatest way it's ever been, and permanently, there needs to be two components. Number one is the spirit of revelation, godliness, which is beyond creation. In order to puncture, in order to change the status quo of the way things are, the world is not a vessel for godliness. To change that, there has to be something otherworldly, otherworldly power, higher than the world power to do that, beyond what the world usually receives. And by the same token, there has to be something in this process that has a relationship to the world, because the goal is that the world should be a vessel and should internalize this revelation and should hold on to it forever. But if it's something which is otherworldly, it's going to be higher than the world can't contain it. So how can this happen? You need to have two seemingly opposite things. So that's the idea of a mamutza. Mutza means intermediary, who has in him a component of both. So Moshe Rabbeinu has a component of both. How do we see that? Because the Talmud says, on the words, Moshe is called a man of God. From his waist down, it is called manlike. From his waist up, he was called godly. So we went a little further into this, and we said that the word Moshe and the word man of God seems to be a double expression. And there's also double expression at the end of the verse. When we ask God to establish for us the work of our hands, we say it twice. So what's the meaning of the double expression? Moshe, the man of God. Moshe is the man of God. Why? If you're saying the man of God, you know what you're talking about. Moshe, say Moshe, you know you're talking about the man of God. Why is there this seemingly redundant expression? So we looked a little deeper into the words man of God, and we discovered that the word God that's used over here is the name of Hashem that is associated with concealment, the name that Hashem used when he made the world. Bereshis bar Elokim, the beginning Elokim created. The name of Hashem associated with concealment of godliness. So there is an element of Moshe Rabbeinu which is associated with the godliness, which is vested within creation, which is in the same level as creation. And then there is the name of Moshe himself. Moshe, not the title, the man of God, but the word Moshe actually indicates something higher. The Rebbe doesn't discuss it over here, I don't think. Maybe he hints to it, but there's a concept in Kabbalah called Shemitah Rishona and Shemitah Shniya. Shemitah Rishona means the first 7-year cycle and the second 7-year cycle. The first 7-year cycle means the way the spheres are associated with chesed. The second 7-year cycle means the way the spheres are associated with, whereas when I say after Pesach, chesed b'chesed, Purush b'chesed, that's the first Shemitah. And the second Shemitah is the way everything is associated with Buddha. What it says about the world of Teyu, but the world that preceded this world, the world of chaos, the world where the lights shattered the vessels. It says that world was a world where there was too much chesed. The world was built on too much chesed. What kind of chesed? It's an exceedingly abundant amount of chesed. And that's why everything burst, because there's too much revelation. So this world, on the other hand, is built on Gvura, built on the concealment of godliness. It's the opposite of the world of chaos, where it's all built on Chesed. Here it's all built on Gvura. So Moshe Rabbeinu, it says he comes from Shemitah Rishon. He comes from the first Shemitah. He comes from the revelation. That's the meaning of the words. He comes from the water. He comes from Shem He comes from godliness, the godliness which is not limited to creation, but the way Hashem's light is beyond creation. So that's the meaning of coming from the water, coming from the place just like water covers the surface of the water. When you look at water, you don't see beneath the surface. So Moshe Rabbeinu also, he comes from that place. But what's unique about Moshe Rabbeinu is not just his origin, rather, even while he is alive as a soul and a body, he is still from the water. He's still attached to his source. Just like the fish who are always in their source, so too Moshe Rabbeinu is like the fish who are in their source, so too Moshe Rabbeinu is still always submerged in the source. So it comes out that the words Moshe, the man of God, allude to two elements. These two elements that we said are necessary to bridge the gap between godly revelation beyond creation. Then it should become permanently transfixed within creation and be revealed here. Those two elements we find these two elements in Moshe Rabbeinu himself. On the one hand, we have in Moshe Rabbeinu the word Moshe, which means, Moshe means to be drawn from the water. He's connected to godliness, which is beyond creation. And he gives the power to the Jewish people to reveal godliness in the world, to transform the world, to bring in something into the world that's infinite. Moshe Rabbeinu gives us the power to reveal godliness, to transform, to go against the grain. On the other hand, Moshe Rabbeinu is also called the man of God. He's also connected with godliness, which is in the realm of creation. So that means he gives power to the Jewish people, which is relevant to their role to reveal godliness that is in the realm of creation, in a way that they're able on their own to make vessels for this revelation in a permanent way. He's a man of God. In other words, the word man of God means he gives a power to us to reveal godliness that is in the realm of creation. And so that it could hold, so that creation could be a vessel for it and could hold on to it. He is not. So the first element of Moshe Rabbeinu was how he gives us the power to transform the world, go beyond, go fight against the grain, escape from this whole concealment thing. And this the same token is called the man of God. As a human being, he gives us a connection to the limited light of Hashem that is in the realm of creation, and he empowers us to make vessels for godliness in the way that the world can hold on to. Yeah, you follow?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the meaning of the double expression of the beginning of the verse, and now we'll see that the same thing is also alluded to at the end of the chapter too. We said that there's a double expression at the end of this chapter as well. The double expression also is related to these two elements, revealing godliness, which is beyond creation, on the one hand. On the other hand, bring it here in a way that should stay on the other hand. Now we can also understand the double expression, double request at the end of the chapter. May you establish for us the work of our hands. Blake, remember the last sentence?
I just was wondering why it's a little bit different each time.
I'm saying it wrong, you're saying? Okay, no problem.
No, I don't know why the double expression isn't. I mean, it's not exactly the same.
But what is expression? What's expression though?
Oh, I just shut it. Oh, hold on. It's right here. The expression is, okay, so it's, so yeah. Well, the one is Darcha el Banehem.
No, in Hebrew, in English. I got the Hebrew.
Oh yeah.
Last sentence.
Establish the work of our hands. Establish for us the work of our hands, and establish
work of our hands. Establish for us the work of our hands. Okay, got it. So, what's the purpose of the double expression at the end of the chapter? Thank you. So it's since Moshe Rabbeinu, who serves as intermediary, he has these two components within him. He is called Moshe, and he's called the man of God. He's connected to the without which is beneath the surface. And he's also connected to bring this down to us, and he has this in a manifest way. Let's skip parentheses over here for a second. Nitzchis Moshe Atzish Moshe Lamesa called Derivation Spashut from Moshe and Nesa Al Kirchit Mishkach Yitzchak and Chesa Praga Shalei Ad Shkama Maizi Moshe Mata Mishkach Mata Nitzchim. How does Moshe have this in a manifest way? Because Moshe Rabbeinu himself, we find eternity in Moshe himself. The Gemara says Moshe did not die. Every generation, the Zohar says there is an extension of Moshe. Besides for the fact that every Jew is a spark of Moshe in every generation, and in every Jew there's a spark of Moshe. Besides that, there is the leader of the Jewish people in every generation was called the extension of Moshe that generation. And also, the Talmud says that the work of the hands of Moshe is eternal. Gemara says that the Mishkan, the tabernacle that Moshe made, is forever. So you find in Moshe Rabbeinu this idea of infinity, of eternity. There's always a Moshe in every generation. Every Jew has a spark of Moshe. When Moshe does last forever, in parentheses, there are notes that we emphasize the idea of Hashem's eternity in the chapter. You were a refuge for us every generation. Before there were mountains, forever and ever you are Hashem. 1,000 years in your eyes are like a day. So Moshe Rabbeinu, who is nullified to Hashem, who is a servant of Hashem, he also has in him this idea of eternity. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu specifically was the one who had the ability to draw down the Shekhinah into this world through his prayer. His prayer made the pleasantness of Hashem be upon us, when the Shekhinah rest upon us. His prayer is what caused the Shekhinah to rest here. And how should it rest here? In a way of koinonali. It should be established, it should be permanent for every generation. So this doesn't only allude to the tabernacle, which was eternal, but also alludes to the third Beis Hamikdash, which will never be destroyed. So just like in Moshe himself, we find these two concepts. On the one hand, he is Moshe. On the other hand, he is a man of God. On one hand, he's beyond creation. On the other hand, he's within creation. So too, we find the same two concepts in the prayer of Moshe. He brought the divine presence to be revealed in the Mishkan. He brought something which is beyond the world into the Mishkan. And number two, but he brought this down in a way that it became, the tabernacle was a vessel for it. There's actually an argument between the Rambam and the Ramban, about the way the Shekhinah rests in the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Briefly, the analogy I think Hasidus gives to explain their argument is the way that our brain power moves into our hand to facilitate the ability to write, versus the way the mind, the neshama's mind, enters the brain to facilitate the ability to think. While when you're writing, there is some brain power there. In fact, not just there, your brain power is there, but you're able to put your thoughts on paper. So what is your hand doing when you put your thoughts on paper? It's just serving as it's just a bridge. The goal is to put your thoughts on paper. It's just something which it's passing through your hand. Versus the soul's mind, as it enters into the physical brain, doesn't just pass through the brain. The mind goes into the brain, and the brain now itself, the physical brain, is now thinking. So in a similar way, when we talk about God's presence resting in the tabernacle, is it just something which is, so to speak, superimposed upon that place? Or is it becoming something that changes the place itself? Does the place itself now become a holy place? So I'm not sure that this is relevant to Rebbe's words here or not, but the words that Rebbe uses sound like to me the words of the opinion which says that the place itself becomes holy. It's not just the Shekhinah is brought to the world, but it becomes a pnimi shalma. It comes part of that place. The place itself becomes holy. And this is alluded to by the double expression, these two concepts of the drawing godliness from beyond creation within creation, and at the same time, that it should be vested within creation, it should become permanently fixed in creation, are alluded to by these two expressions. Blake, I was going to answer your question here. Established for us the work of our hands. Actually, the literal translation is not for us as it's translated in the Siddur. Aleinu means upon us. It means it's something which is upon us. It's something which is beyond us. So the first expression at the end of the verse is highlighting how the godly revelation is something that we cannot contain. It's something which is infinite, something which is beyond us. And the second expression, established for us the work of our hands, that emphasizes the work of our hands specifically, not what's upon us, not which is beyond us, that it's something that our hands are establishing and are holding on to. It's not upon us, it's in the work of our hands. So the double expression again highlights these two elements, the point that to make this change of Hashem's infinite light filling the world and staying here forever, there need to be two components. Number one, something otherworldly, as the first half of the last sentence of the verse may establish upon us the work of our hands, something that highlights we're talking about a godly revelation which is higher than us. And the last words of the verse establish the work of our hands, emphasizing our hands, what we're doing, and how this godly infinite light is going to become something that's part and parcel of the world. Okay. Yom Tov is shekefa b'chal meira al kiyum adar if nitzke kafan teshishu leirak pishnayim leisem is beichas v'tekef v'kefa kashim negul gunitzkes. Okay, this is especially Yom Tov means it's sweetened. This idea is more geschmack when you consider the fact that the word in general in Torah, something that's doubled indicates something which is eternal. Like the Gemara says, "Kaflayim with the Shia." The pasuk is "Kaflayim with the Shia." A doubled for salvation. And in general, the Talmud says that doubled associated with Geula, with eternal Geula. So it's not just that the specific parts of the verse highlight the two elements that need to happen for Mashiach to come, but in general, double is associated with Geula. The Rashi says about this double expression, established for us the work of our hands. Rashi says the double expression refers to two things. The first blessing is Moshe's blessing for the tabernacle. He's blessing the Jewish people that God should rest in what they did. And the second blessing is that there should be a bracha in whatever they do. So according to this, we could say that this double expression hints to bracha kfula shel Moshe v'Moshe nitzchim. This double expression hints to a double blessing of Moshe Rabbeinu, that the work of our hands should be eternal. Both the work of our hands in holiness, in holy things. In other words, Moshe gave it two blessings. Number one is that you work to build this tabernacle, that should happen. The Shekhinah should rest there. Number two is, in general, the work, whatever you do, should be blessed. So this double expression is also something which is eternal in all generations. The blessing is, number one, that whenever we engage ourselves with holy things, we ever try to build the tabernacle, we ever try to do something special and holy, there's a blessing in the work of our hands, and also the work of our own hands. When we're involved in the mundane, when, as the Talmud says, all your deeds should be for the sake of heaven, all your ways you should know Hashem. When it's your ways, your deeds, those, although it's not directly connected with something holy, we're talking about things which are directly connected with worldly things. Moshe Rabbeinu brings into the work of our hands his power for eternity, establish for us the work of our hands. That even when we're involved in mundane things, there should also be this power of Moshe Rabbeinu in them as well, the power of eternity. The truth is that this prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu is part of the prayers of Shabbos. So that means this prayer is a special connection with Shabbos. Especially because Moshe Rabbeinu did just say chapter 90. Moshe Rabbeinu said the 11 chapters beginning with chapter 90. So one of Moshe Rabbeinu's prayers is the prayer that we say also on Shabbos, a psalm for the day of Shabbos. So the connection is like this. Regarding Shabbos as well, the Talmud says that all things done for Shabbos are doubled. You find that Shabbos also has idea of something. The idea of double of kefil is also on Shabbos, and the reason why there's a doubles associated with Shabbos is because there are two parts of Shabbos. There's a night of Shabbos and there's the day of Shabbos. The night of Shabbos is associated with relaxation for the work that you've done. You've worked hard, now you relax on Shabbos. Then the day of Shabbos, it's not about relaxing for what you've done, it's about pure relaxation. Relaxation, not because you've worked hard, now you need to relax, but just relaxing for the sake of relaxing. So this difference, tranquility because of work or pure tranquility, is similar to the difference between the name of Elohim and the name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. There is the godliness as it is relevant to creation, similar to relaxation commensurate to work, godliness which is associated with creation. And then there is the name of Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, which is the godliness which is beyond creation. So on Shabbos, we have both of these concepts together. It's doubled. And that's the reason why in the beginning of the chapter, there's a double expression. It mentions Moshe, and it mentions Hashem Ish Elokim. Moshe is associated with Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, and Ish Elokim, the man of God, is associated with godliness within creation. And the end of the chapter, may the pleasantness of Hashem be upon us. Pleasantness is a level of Shabbos, as Mittler Rebbe explains. That's like building the tabernacle. And the Shabbos is similar to the building of the tabernacle. And then the end of the chapter, we say, the very end of the chapter, we say, establish for us the work of our hands. And we say it again. We're talking about two kinds of, we say, asking Hashem to establish it. We're asking for two different kinds of tranquility. We're asking for the tranquility which is commensurate to what we've invested in creating this place for Hashem. And then we're asking for the tranquility which is beyond us. That's what we say, so this should be established upon us, above us. So Shabbos, similar to Moshe, is also associated with eternity. As is known that every Shabbos, there is a taste of the coming of Mashiach, which will be the Shabbos which is forever. And the Menucha Nitzchis, eternal tranquility. So the Geula comes, as the Talmud Torah says, by keeping two Shabbos. It means by keeping the two levels within Shabbos as well. Because every Shabbos is double. So I just said a lot of information, and Zev is getting dizzy, even though Josh joined 2 minutes ago. Let me just give a brief recap of what we just said. We explained how the double expression, both the beginning of the verse and the end of the verse, at the end of the chapter, are highlighting two elements of the purpose in creation, which is to reveal godliness in the world, and it should stay here. And how the first words of the verse, Moshe, is associated with Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, because Moshe means to be drawn from the water. And the word man of God refers to godliness which is in the realm of creation. And Moshe and Ish Elokim put together in the same sentence indicates the two elements that are needed to facilitate this eternal revelation of godliness in the world. There should be something otherworldly that could change the world, that could transform the world. And at the same time, it needs to be something that the world can contain. So that's the purpose of the double expression at the beginning of the verse. And also the end of the verse does the same thing. It also highlights these two elements, something which is beyond the world. That's why we say the work of our hands should be established upon us. And then we continue and say it should be established the work of our hands. We don't say upon us, indicating that we're not talking about something which is beyond us, above us, but it's within us. So these two elements, the idea of being beyond creation, within creation, are also associated with the next chapter, the chapter which is associated with the chapter which starts with a song for the day of Shabbos. Shabbos also is associated with the idea of double. There's a rest of Shabbos because you're working hard throughout the week. Then there is the pure tranquility of Shabbos. There is the galus that's revealed on Shabbos, which is relevant to creation, and the galus that's revealed on Shabbos, which is beyond creation. So, and just like we said about Moshe, that Moshe is eternal, so do we also find that Shabbos is eternal and Shabbos is associated with the future redemption. And that's why when it says you keep two Shabbos in your redeem, because Shabbos has these two elements within it, Galus within creation and Galus which is beyond creation. Okay.
Galus within creation is associated with which
Elohim. And Galus beyond creation is Yuki Vavki. Okay. I will stop here. Great day.